Oh, the only thing in my mind is trying to keep this video under like 20 minutes because I know it's going to be long. But what's up? Hello. Welcome to another fan cast. Oh, yes, right. I'm so scared. There's so many. There's so many. This is the first time where I genuinely went, there might be so many castings I need 2 videos here, but I'm going to try putting it into one. Okay, let's try this, okay? So, the X-Men, yes, we're about to get down to it, but before we do that, we need to discuss the next fan cast, guys. As always, you just go down in those comments, you vote for which one of these 5 things you want to see as the next fancast. All suggested by you guys. All of these, yeah, these were all suggested by you guys in the comments of previous fancasts, and now one of them will be the next one. So why don't you go ahead and vote for The Last Unicorn down there in the comments, or Rock of Ages, perhaps? Maybe you want a Crash Bandicoot fancast, or one for Animal Farm, or The Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. What? Go ahead and vote for which one you want next. Okay, we're going to move quite quickly. I say that at the start of a lot of fan casts when I've got a lot of casting to do, but genuinely today I just have to move really quickly. So there's little to no explanation for most of these. We'll talk about some of these more major ones a bit first, of course. First up is Charles Xavier, okay? You do the X-Men, you need Charles Xavier. You can kill him off at some point, you can do whatever you want to him, but he has to be bald, he has to be Charles Xavier, okay? We've had Patrick Stewart, we've had James McAvoy, pretty good. Who do we cast? I want to cast Ralph Fiennes, okay? I want to cast Ralph Fiennes because Ralph Fiennes looks like comic book Xavier, right? Like, comic book Xavier, you know, Patrick Stewart always looked not too soft, but too kind. He always looked too kind to quite be the kind of Charles Xavier that you'd normally see in the comics or like the animated show, you know? He always looked a bit more like this, kind of guy, you know, more strict teacher. And Ralph Fiennes would pull that off better, you know? He'd change it up. If they're bringing them into the MCU, they're not going to want whoever they cast to be a carbon copy of the style used by Patrick Stewart. And he can be, like, friendly enough, generally, you know? He's not a horrible guy. He's done some bad shit. But I do feel like Ralph Fiennes would be able to balance more the different aspects of Xavier in terms of he's a little bit shitty, he's a little bit strict, but he's also this kind teacher figure, you know? Next, Cyclops is, you know, the film's really fucked with Cyclops, guys. In the comics, he's the leader, he's a good guy, he's, you know, he's always one of the most important people. In the films, you know, they didn't treat Cyclops great any of the time. I always felt like he was somehow marginalized as a character, you know. He was never that important, really, was he? He was a cuck for the first trilogy, and then he kind of later on, when they brought like Ty Sheridan and stuff, he was like, he was there, he was a boy, he still wasn't exactly a major player. I would love to see somebody like Richard Madden play him, because I feel like he's one of those people, just after he did Game of Thrones and then he did like the live action Cinderella, and he keeps doing other stuff to the degree that I'm waiting for him to get some big role, you know, like he could be like the next Bond, or he could be, you know, he's going to be something, you know. And I feel like a big superhero role like this in a team as the leader, you know, I feel like he'd work well in that kind of leadership role. So I'd like to see that, and I feel like he could help, you know, maybe slightly start to move us away from the whole he's just a cuck and he's not that important as a character in any media thing, you know? Next. And if you're casting Cyclops, then you need to cast Jean Grey, okay? Jean Grey, wow, we've seen her go a little bit loopy twice in film, haven't we? If they do eventually do like the Phoenix Dark Phoenix storyline in the MCU, that's gonna be pretty wild. But, well, you know, we hopefully want to wait a while, you know, wait like quite a few films, actually get to see a lot of like happy Jean before they just jump into it this time, you know. Ideally, that'd be nice. I think that'd be nice. So I want to cast Deborah Ann Woll, because I really like Deborah Ann Woll. You know, everything I see her in Daredevil, True Blood, she always comes off really goddamn good, fun, like she could be doing a big leading role in something, you know? And this is kind of, I like the fact that X-Men is such an ensemble cast, so many of them, because it allows you this opportunity to have a go at putting people who have worked in ensemble casts before on this bigger stage, kind of, you know? In the MCU, it's a big stage, you know? But they do these ensemble casts with Guardians, they're doing it with Internals and stuff, so that they don't have to immediately make that jump too big a list star, you know? They can be at this kind of intermediate level almost, you know? It's hard to explain. Firstly, I was surprised that I wanted to cast them not teenagers, you know, all of these like initial main ones at least. I didn't want to cast any of them as teenagers because I thought we've seen that just recently in like Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, all of these ones as teenagers. I wanted to cast them a bit older. I thought, you know, it'd be more like the original casting. They're like in their 30s, maybe they're late 20s by now, all of these original members, and they're like teachers at the school and stuff, you know. I thought that's where we'd maybe begin in the MCU because I feel like it's too hard for them. They'd be waiting like a solid 10-15 years building up the cast if they have the initial ones as teenagers off the bat, you know. I don't feel like they're going to have the patience for that. So I think, you know, Richard Madden, Deborah Ann Woll, they're kind of in their mid-30s. That's probably the kind of place we're looking for. And I think those two together as a couple look really nice. That's just as well. Next, Wolverine. Recasting Wolverine. I don't like it. I don't like having to do that. I don't like it. No, I don't like it. But if you're gonna have to recast Wolverine, I'd like to see Taron Egerton do it, okay? This is the second time in about 3 or 4 weeks that I've cast Taron Egerton as a badass Canadian. And he's Welsh. He's not from America, he's not from Canada, he's from the UK, he's Welsh. But I just feel like he fits both of these roles really well. I cast him as Casey Jones in my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan cast, and I'm casting him as Wolverine because he's got the comedy as an action star. He's got the ferocity, you know. I feel like he'd look good. Sideburn, you know. And I just feel like he's also, you know, like Richard Madden, like Deborah Ann Woll. He's ripe for becoming a major superhero star. Or Bond. I'd watch him as Bond. He just did. He's just done like Kingsman, you know, which is a kind of almost take on Bond in a lot of ways. But I'd watch him as Bond. But I'd also like to see him in the MCU as some big hero. He could play so many roles, you know. I'm just waiting for him to appear in another franchise. After he did like Rocketman stuff, he's done a couple of like whoa but dramatic things, and I'm waiting for him to jump back into like action stuff. I expect it, but I don't know. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. If it happens, I'd love him to be the new Wolverine. I think he'd be fantastic at that. But who knows? Next, Iceman just comes off like he should be a bit younger to me. You know I said like Iceman is one of the kind of original X-Men originally, but it wasn't really treated as such a big role in the films. And I'm kind of thinking like, yeah, I'd be happy enough to cast him slightly younger. I want him to be cast as someone fun. You know, Shawn Ashmore did a good job for what he had to do. But I feel like there's more comedy to the role. There's more fun to be had. And I'd like to see Joe Keery do it. Joe Keery's he's fun, you know. Did you see Spree? My God. He can be a leading man. He can do, you know, it's another thing. Stranger Things will be done eventually. He's going to, you know, I expect him to move on to some big franchise or some big leading role somewhere. And this is the kind of thing that I can see him doing, you know. It's not a big leading role, no. But Iceman could be more important in the upcoming MCU version of the X-Men. And I'd like to see that, and I feel like he'd work well. But who knows? Next, Angel is another one. He didn't get a good rap throughout the films. No. Neither version. Freaking disaster. Talk about disaster, right? Just, oh, he came in Last Stand. It sucked. He sucked. I hated it. And then he came in Apocalypse. Oh, let's not even go there, you know. But Angel is another one of the original X-Men. You'd like to think that they could do something making him a better, more interesting, more fun character. I'd like to see Alex Pettyfer do it. Because I was confused and thought Alex Pettyfer did do it in X-Men The Last Stand. He didn't. But I think he'd work well in that role. He's done, you know, he's kept himself rolling in different stuff over the years, and I feel like he could come in and make an impact here, coming back to like being a proper leading man. I'd like to see that. I don't know honestly. Angel was never a character I particularly cared about, you know, as much as he was an original, one of the first 5 X-Men. I always felt like, why is, you know, he interesting? What's so interesting about his character? I don't know. I haven't read enough comics that he's been in, really. You know, they kind of don't talk about him as much as they used to in comics and stuff like that. But anyway, next, where are we? Oh God, Beast, another important one for sure. I liked the way they went with Nicholas Hoult in the films recently for Beast. I liked that the kind of version of him he was portraying, you know, and he's always this scientific guy who isn't that imposing as much as he is literally a beast, you know. But I'd like to see somebody like Eddie Redmayne do the role. I feel like he'd play it similarly with a bit more, potential, as a leading man. Eddie Redmayne's had more experience in that department than Nicholas Hoult. I feel like that'd just work really well, and he would finish, I feel like those films recently have helped Beast as a character, with fans and stuff, with casual audiences. I feel like Eddie Redmayne could help finish that transformation to someone they really care about, one of the top X-Men, because again, he's one of the original 5. You'd like to believe that they can do something with him in the MCU, Next, Storm. I'm not, she probably got the best rap in the films, because the films turned her, at least the early ones when it was Halle Berry and stuff, into one of the most well-known X-Men, which I don't really think she would have been so much before that, in terms of the comics. She wasn't one of the original 5. She was an important character, but I never felt like she was one of the top until the films started, with her as Halle Berry. I'd like to see someone like Naomi King play her. I feel like she could help drive something more of an African influence into the character, because because in the comics more recently, Black Panther and Storm have been married and stuff like that. It's a fun thing. They could introduce her into the Black Panther films. I don't know still what they are going to do moving forwards with the Black Panther films, but Wakanda has been in Phase 3 such a big part of things that I feel like it's going to continue being, no matter what they do. And I feel like she as a character, Storm, with Naomi King, could be great at leading them somewhere good, Next, we really need to start moving slightly faster. Okay, so Mystique, fun character. They've done fun things with her. They turned her into a much more major character than she ever was because of Jennifer Lawrence. Oh yes, I'd like to see somebody like Emma Mackey play her. I love Emma Mackey. She's great. Sex Education, fantastic. And now she's moving on to big films and stuff. She's doing Death on the Nile and things like that. And she's good at playing that kind of young, seductive role. The Mystique is the kind of role I would have cast Margot Robbie in 5 years ago, It's that kind of thing. I feel like Emma Mackey's coming up. She can do that. And she's another person who I expect to break into some big franchises pretty soon, so that'll be good. Next, Rogue. Big, short-shrifted as well. Anna Paquin was obviously one of the very main characters in the first X-Men. Got shoved to the side a bit in 2 and 3. And then where's Rogue been since then? Yeah. And the animated series, she was one of the big ones, and she's such a beloved character. And I'd like to see her return to that somewhat, at least. So I'd like Zoey Deutch to play her, because Zoey Deutch is one of those people who looks sweet, is fun, so nice, and then she can kind of get into these roles where suddenly she's, whoa, a bit crazy and stuff. Like Buffaloed, she was great in that, fantastic. And like Zombieland Double Tap, she was just insanely funny. I think there's a lot of potential for her to do something like this, and that's a kind of, not quite a memeing role, because Rogue's too big for you to just meme with, but Zoey Deutch would be great at mixing that, having that kind of hilarious nature to the character while also just being a really important player in the franchise going forward. Next, oh god, Nightcrawler, great role. You can do a lot with Nightcrawler. They did really well with him in X-Men 2. Then where'd he go? I'd like to see Timothée Chalamet play him. Oh yeah, I don't need to say any more about that. That's fucking great. I'd love that casting. I think that'd be really, really good. Next, Gambit. You know what? They almost did Channing Tatum as a Gambit film a lot of times, and they didn't. And I think they should just go back to the roots of the character, play him as French, perhaps. He's French. He's kind of French influence. They could get a French actor like Gaspard Ulliel. Why him? He just looks so much like Gambit. He looks so much like Gambit, right? That'll be fantastic. I think that'll be really fun. And, he's the kind of character you can introduce and let him become a fan favourite in ensemble casts, and then break him out in a bigger role in some other film or something, Next, Jubilee. Great character as well. They did very well with her in a couple of the recent films, fairly well, part of an ensemble cast, but did pretty well. I'd like to see Auli Cravalho play her, because she'd give off the same energy as I feel she did in the more recent films, But Auli Cravalho is, if you're wondering, at least part Chinese. I feel like it, you could cast an actual Chinese actress, but I didn't. Emma Frost. Why? Wow, we're really going through the list, guys. Of so many people here. Emma Frost is another great character. I'd like to see Samara Weaving play her, because she's very attractive. I think she's very fun. She is very good at very fun characters. She's been in a lot of horror comedies and things where she's been very funny, and I feel like she'd be very good at playing this kind of role that's always, I don't know, Emma Frost always seems like such a serious character, and I don't get why, you know, like she can be a bit more fun, you know, as a villain or hero or whatever they want to do with her, you know. Next, Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde, yeah, fun role. She should be young as well. I feel like she works as young, you know. Elliot Page playing her did a good job in the OG films way back when. I feel like Haley Steinfeld is ripe to play that kind of role. You know, I feel like she's similar to the style of character they looked for back then. This kind of character you feel like Shadowcat normally is in the comics and stuff as well. So I think that'll be fun, and I think it'll be fun to see her grow in that kind of role. Obviously, they might have her as young Kate Bishop, the other Hawkeye in the MCU. But it's hard to know. It's hard to know what's going on these days with the MCU, guys. Who knows? Next, Quicksilver. Oh, are they going to introduce Quicksilver again? It's going to be hard to replace Evan Peters. He's very good. I feel like if you wanted to go for a similar style to the kind of comedy and fun and youth that he brings, you cast somebody like Thomas Brodie Sangster. I think he's just freaking great in Maze Runner, and go back as far as Love Actually, you know, he was in Game of Thrones as well. And you look at things like The Queen's Gambit recently, he kind of has this confident, fun, you know, air about him that I really like. So I think he'd be good at that role. Next, I have to mention briefly that I'm not casting Deadpool, Cable, Colossus, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, or Domino, because it's pretty much, you know, Deadpool 3, been confirmed that they're all going to be inside the MCU, played by the people who played them in the Deadpool and Deadpool 2 movies. So just going to leave those to the side, okay? Next. Okay, let's wrap up with a couple of villains, right? Couple of villains. We did a couple kind of sprinkled in throughout there, but we're going to finish up with a couple of the big ones, okay? Firstly, Mr. Sinister. They almost had John Hamm play Mr. Sinister in New Mutants because they set up they wanted to do New Mutants as the first of a trilogy of films about those guys and have Mr. Sinister in the post-credit scene for the first one. But they took it out after A, Marvel bought the Fox, so they weren't going to be able to make any more Fox X-Men films, and B, it didn't do well, and I feel like they knew that by the time it was coming out, so they probably just took it out and were like, no, let's not even say there's a possibility of something else, because there's just not. I'd like to see Ewan McGregor, though, do it, because I feel like he can be a really good villain. I didn't love him as Black Mask in Birds of Prey, but there are a lot of things I didn't like about that. I feel like he's a really good villain. I feel like that kind of villain, you know, is exactly what you're looking for, that kind of dark, brooding, you know. I feel like he'd be good at that. Next, Apocalypse. They fucked with Apocalypse, something shocking, didn't they? Yeah, Oscar Isaac, I don't feel like it's his fault at all, but I'm not going to cast him again. I'm going to cast Javier Bardem. Yeah, I like him in that kind of world-dominating, like, you know, it's all on the voice and stuff in Apocalypse, that kind of thing. I feel like he'd be really good in that role. Next, and finally, sorry, I think this video has made 20 minutes, guys. I don't know that it could have been avoided. I like to ramble a bit with fan casts. That's how I have fun. And yeah, but Magneto. Yep, saving Magneto for last. Magneto should be played by Viggo Mortensen. I really like that, okay? Ian McKellen did very good. Michael Fassbender did very good. I've never had a problem with how they portrayed Magneto really in the film so much. Michael Fassbender's a bit flippity-floppity between nice and evil, but, you know, what are you gonna do? I want to see Viggo Mortensen do it because he is, not by this stage, you know, he's this older guy. He's got the right kind of, like, the look, you know, as well. Again, I wouldn't say that Ian McKellen looks too nice to play him, but I feel like Viggo Mortensen, he's got these stricter features. He looks better with, like, the actual, like, slightly longer hair and stuff like that. And just, Magneto's meant to be this Holocaust survivor, you know, obviously. Since MCU is set modern day, that's getting harder and harder to believe, but I mean, mutants can live for a long time and stuff like that, right? Anyway, I do feel like he'd have the right influence of character in those terms. He'd play that really well, but also just the brutal evil side of things. I feel like he could do it really well. Viggo Mortensen is severely underrated, guys. He's so good at just acting performances in so many films, as well as the fact that he was a sex bomb in Lord of the Rings. Okay? But that's all. I think we did a pretty good job there. I absolutely did not cast everyone you could have. That, you know, you're just never going to be able to. There are so many X-Men characters, guys, so many that they will surely want to bring in, but I feel like you've cast enough characters there to actually do at least your first, like, 4 or 5 X-Men films, okay? That is all for this one, guys. You leave down below in the comments there, reply which one of the fan casts you want to see next, and you let me know other suggestions, and you just tell me, you know, you can leave long lists down there of who you would have cast in all these roles or other X-Men roles, just for fun if you like doing that kind of thing, and also subscribe because 1,000 is so close. Have we made it yet? We're so close. Woohoo!